Hello, everybody. My name is Marianne Nganpi, and today I'll be talking about female genital mutilation. Female genital mutilation is the cutting of the female external female genitals or other severe injuries to the female reproductive area for non-medical reasons, and it has no health benefits, but it causes more harm that could lead to shock and death in women. The reason why I chose this topic is because I am from Africa and I have one of my closest friends who is also from the continent, and she went through female genital mutilation. And so I decided to talk about this topic because it's not really spoken about, and and it's not really a famous public health issue that we're facing today, but a lot of women are dying and a lot of girls especially are dying because of this, and so we need more awareness. And basically, with female genital mutilation, they use a blade or they can use a knife or whatever, any sharp object they can use to cut the reproductive area. So there are different types of cutting. The first one is clitoris, also called the clitoridectomy. The second type is also you cut the clitoris and you cut the labia minora. And then the last and most severe one is when you basically cut the clitoris, the labia minora, the labia majora, and it's also known as infibulation, and it's basically cutting and sewing the entire organ system of the female. If you can see a picture clearly, you can see the first type versus the second type versus the third type, and you can see that basically the third type is extreme closing of the female genital area. What else? There's also more injuries to the female genital organs like scraping, pricking, piercing, or cauterization, but these are the types of female cutting. So the reason why this occurs is because a lot of countries that are culturally and religiously strict, they just have this belief or this rule that if once a lady is born until they probably give birth, they just cannot do certain things, and that's why female genital mutilation occurs. It's just basically is to protect females in a bad way. My own point of view is that this should never be happening because females should be able to do what they want to do with their body. But again, this is in countries where a lot of women don't have opinions, or they just do what the elders tell them to do. So there are different complications. There's urinary bladder, there's like menstrual complications, itching, discharge, bacterial buildup, childbirth complications, shock, and even death. But imagine your body going through trauma because your reproductive system has been, cut or damaged, and it has a lot of nerves. There's a lot of nerves in the reproductive system. A little bit of female genital mutilation, it's kind of similar to like how do they call it? I don't remember what they call it. I'll probably think of it down the road, but how do they call it? It's similar to that because you are cutting, but this one is a little bit severe because this is the female reproductive system, and we go through we pee, we menstruate, we have kids through in this one specific area, and so if you're literally closing the hole, it's like impossible to do certain things. But this is very common in places that are religiously and culturally strict, and the idea is also to decrease female sexuality and sexual expressions, just because sometimes it's to decrease the amount of children or childbirth, or decrease the amount of females to the pleasure of sex, basically. And I think this is definitely a public health issue because public health, of course, aims to prevent diseases and promote health, right? And even though this is done in different countries and stuff like that, it's still affecting health, especially women's health, and is also bringing on diseases. For example, like female diseases, discharges, bacteria buildup. Those leads to a bunch of complications that could bring more in trauma to the body, and nerve damages and all of that. So, and it's also another reason why I say it's a public health issue is because it's affecting women's health. And it might not be a public health issue in the USA, but still public health is preventing disease and promoting health all over the world. So it is issues in these countries. And, so we have to be aware and, know that this is going on and help women out there. So the only statistics I could find about female genital mutilation was that this occurs to ages from 0 to 15, mostly from 4 to 15, honestly, and from 15 to the first child, when the first child is born. I don't know why it's done to girls, but I feel like it's done to younger girls because pain is not as severe as if you are older and you're not aware of the pain when you're younger. But then it's more complications because these girls are still growing and their system is still very weak. Their system is still growing. Imagine your nerves and if your lungs are still growing at the age of 4 years old, what about your nerves in your reproductive area? So it's very possible to die from it, and trauma and all of that. This act occurs in many countries. It's not only in Africa, but it occurs in many countries. We have Nigeria, Mali, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, Djibouti, Guinea, Sudan, many other countries. We can see that most of it occurs in Sudan, Egypt, Mali, Guinea, and other countries like Colombia, India, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia. It does happen around the world. It doesn't necessarily happen here in America or in Europe because they're more advanced, but it does happen around the world, especially in places that are culturally strict. The ways I came up with to prevent FGM is to educate young girls. It's hard to go out to those areas and try and change the rule or change the law or change the culture or the belief. It's very hard, but one thing we can do is to educate them, build clean education centers in those areas. For example, when I graduate from college and when I'm financially stable, I would like to build a clinic in my country to educate women and to help women in this, because they go through the toughest time ever, especially in Africa. I would also say is to allow, another way to prevent FGM is to allow girls to make decisions, but this is this is the last, because it's very difficult because parents always think they know what's best for their kid, so it's very hard to allow a girl to make a decision. I never made a decision when I was a girl, but especially in a country like that. So another way would be to build more women's centers or clinics for women who are traumatized or women who have actually gone through FGM. And it's just an area where they can go to heal or to get antibiotics or to get medicine or to get, even to unstitch the stitches that they have done, because I know infibulation is basically stitching the entire female reproductive area. And then another one that's very important, I think, will be to banning and making FGM illegal. It's very illegal here in America and it's also illegal in some areas in Europe. So I would banning it or making it illegal will be very, very efficient, but this will be it will be very difficult to do it around, because this occurs in villages in the continent, and who would go into villages literally observing who is doing this and who is not doing this? So it will be very difficult. This is the end of my presentation. I really loved researching about this topic, and this topic is very dear to me and close to home, so that's why I decided to do it. Thank you.